I guess in the interest of time, let's begin. Firstly, warm welcome to the Business Environment Council and our brand new auditorium. I think we got a good, I need to quote Robert because Robert said this is a great new auditorium. So for those who have not been here before, we went through a big revamp, Adam and the team, and so what you see today, oops, that was not planned, but what you see today is the result. Oh, okay. But coming back to today's seminar, UST. Okay, Robert, sorry. See, I speak your name and they bring attention to you. So Robert is from UST, of course. But welcome again to the what we call the Post-COP series. In the last couple of years, for those who have joined us, we have been very fortunate and privileged to partner with UST and Civic Exchange to bring you this seminar, which happens in January after the COP the year before. Many of you may not realize it, but it's quite meaningful to have the three organizations together because we were talking about how we have to work together. Firstly, businesses, which Business Environment Council is. We have 210 members, all from businesses, many of the larger ones in Hong Kong. So the scientists, Robert representing UST, and I think we have Jimmy here. So the scientists from UST, and for sure Civic Society, which Civic Exchange, I think, sorry for the rest, but represents many of the work that the Civic Society is doing in Hong Kong. And so, because real change can only happen when everybody works together, businesses, Civic Society, and scientists. Of course, very important with leadership by the government, which I have to say BEC engages the government quite closely, particularly the Environment Bureau. So back to COP25, as we were discussing earlier, after COP21, unfortunately, the COP has come down in expectations and what they could deliver. COP25 was supposed to be a very important year because it's a year before the 196 regions and countries, blah, 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 that signed COP21 supposed to come back to declare the NDC, more ambitious goals to see how we can combat climate change together and be carbon neutral by 2050. Unfortunately, it did not do what it set out to do, which is to agree on Article 6, rules and regulations and transparency, blah, 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 when it comes to reporting this year. So it will be interesting to see how people are going to report this year, because I have to say the rules have not been set as it was supposed to have been done between 2015 and 2019. By itself, it was already deferred from 2018 for those who have been following. So, but then the other disappointment was that there seems to be a less discussion about the science in COP25 than before, because I guess everybody was distracted with negotiation, which, by the way, one of the outcomes was the North-South divide sort of widened, right? Developed and developing countries sort of diverge in what they should be doing and what I should be helping whom. So that's the fact of life. But the end is that we have actually, all of us, lost another 5 years from 2015 to reach this carbon neutral target by 2050. So before I hand over to Robert, Robert says I have to talk about the science because I think the science is very important. Just as a reminder, because the science is telling us that global warming is happening, and that's a fact. If you can look at the slide, pay attention to the top right-hand corner. The last decade has been the warmest, whether we like it or not. The last, if you can see, 2010 to 2019, the hottest decade. So the little peak up in the north, in the top right-hand corner is showing that past 5 years, the hottest 5 years, and 2019 was the second hottest. So whether we like it or not, we are warming up. Of course, if you look at the average temperature, it's maybe 1.2, but the right hand globe, the picture actually is more scary, I have to say, because as we know, average sort of it doesn't tell you the peak, but the extreme is the red part at the top and the bottom, and somewhere in the middle, Europe is showing warming of 2 to 4 degrees already as we speak. I mean, for those who go to Europe, you would know that in the past, I go to Germany quite a bit. We used to joke that there's no summer in Germany. You go to Germany in August or July, you bring a sweater. Today, you can go with your t-shirt and your shorts, I have to say. So we are seeing it not only in our lifetime, but in our decade. So I think that brings to the urgency. So then what are we doing? What do we need to do? This chart is famous from COP21, but let me bring up everything at the same time. So the top is basically what we are doing today. From the 2015 policy scenario, which is before, and then a little bit of improvement, current year scenario, which is a blue chart at the top. And what the unconditional NDC scenario is actually what the 196 regions and countries declared in 2015. So everybody came up with a number, we rolled out the number, oops, even if with all the things we are doing today, mind you, all the decarbonizing and what we are doing today, China peaking by 2030, we are still at 3.2 degrees. That's what the scientist is telling us. So we are certainly not at 2 degrees, so a lot more effort needs to be done to get to 2 degrees and below, because scientists are saying that 2 degrees is sort of the tipping point. If you get more than 2 degrees, you have sort of an irreversible damage to the ecosystem. So mind you, we have between now and 2050 to get that done. Again, we have lost 5 years since COP21, and actually lost, 20 years since the Kyoto Protocol. So that's one thing somebody also reminded. A lot needs to be done. And major attention is focused on, of course, the major emitters, which are the G20 nations. So what's happening there? Again, I was very sensitive to bring out this slide because it's a bit of finger pointing, but certainly not, because this slide shows that indeed the major emitters are, yes, there is some flattening of the curve, as you can see in China, in the US, and in Europe. And on a per capita basis, some of the developed countries, like the United States on the right-hand side, is coming down. But certainly, even with all this happening, we are still looking at 3.2, Robert, if I'm not wrong. So this is not enough. And more needs to be done together. And that's the, I think the challenge is having everybody, 196 nations and regions agreeing to do it together without looking at a slide like this, because everybody at the end has a common outcome, which is to make sure by 2050 we are carbon neutral. And as I mentioned, we need to do this together. And businesses, civic society, and government, and of course, academics need to do it together. In Hong Kong, Business Environment Council, representing the business, has been taking the lead. I have to say, since 2008, in a way, when the CCBF AG was founded. We have Rachel here, she was one of the pioneers. And since then, Business Environment Council has been working very hard, bringing the businesses together, working together with the government and the civic society to go through this transition, because this indeed is a transition that we have never gone through before. So last year, we got together and did the low carbon charter. We have more than 30 companies They're committed to low carbon pathways, and BC is helping them set targets and bring down carbon in their business. We hope to get more signatories as we go on. So let me close this my short opening by repeating the words of Mr. Gutierrez, the Secretary General of the UN, who says, actually, I am disappointed with the results of COP25. The international community lost an important opportunity to show increased ambition on mitigation, adaptation, and finance to tackle the climate crisis. So this last race, but we must not give up. So we may have lost 5 years, we may have lost 20 years, but we must not give up. And I hope we follow what he says, I will not give up. So let us work together again, because only by working together, it's not a problem that one person or one part of the society can address. By working together, we can avoid maybe what we call the tragedy of commons from happening to planet Earth, because at the end of the day, in the tragedy of commons ending, they brought the cows to another grazing path. But for us, unfortunately, we only have the Earth. We cannot go to another place. So with that, I hand over to Robert.